Well, hello, and welcome to Hugh's Reviews, the place for movie views and spoiler clues. Remember when once upon a time you could go to the theater and see an exciting movie that gets nearly every element right and wasn't a remake or a franchise builder? Yeah, not too many of those out there these days, I'll grant you. But James Mangold remembers, and with Ford vs. Ferrari, he's going to help us remember too. From the outset, I'm just going to say that I judged this film as a film and not by its adherence to historical events, of which I know very little. A movie needs to be a movie, and hopefully a biopic is done well enough to do justice to the events it portrays. Please do not deluge me with angry comments about how the film screwed up this event or that. This is a movie. It's not a history report. Don't get your calipers in a twist. We good? Okay. Well, Ford vs. Ferrari is the story of how the Ford Motor Company sought to up their popularity with the youth demographic in the mid-60s by getting into the world of high-stakes racing. See, in the mid to late 60s they had an image problem. Fords were then seen as hard-working trucks and family cars, with the occasional, barely interesting Mustang thrown in as a conceit to fashion. Kinda weird how history repeats itself, huh? The solution? Take down Ferrari at the 24-hour of Le Mans race in France. Do that and you're a 450 horsepower Raquel Welch in a fuzzy bikini. Or, in today's parlance, Scarlett Johansson in a catsuit. There's just one little problem. Ford doesn't have the know-how or the skills to build the beautiful beast they need. Enter Carroll Shelby, retired racing legend and car designer played by Matt Damon. Ford offers him a deal. Design and build their car, take down the reigning champs, the Italian Ferrari racing team, and they'll write him a blank check for the project. Shelby agrees, brings in his team, and gets to work. But there's one vital piece missing: the right driver. Well, just so happens he knows a guy, notorious hothead racing rebel Ken Miles, here portrayed by Christian Bale. If Ken can keep his temper under control, he can drive the car, and together, just maybe, they can make high-speed history. When I saw the ads for Ford vs. Ferrari, I was very interested, but I had a few worries. The trailer looked good and the cast and crew had the pedigree, but could they really pull off an old-fashioned good film and not fall into the current film by committee Hollywood hackery that's been hamstringing other promising works of late? Well, the answer is a resounding yes! Even though it suffers a tad by having a few predictable beats, the movie is way better than it has any right to be. I mean, when's the last time you watched a sports underdog movie that wasn't saccharine or sappy in the extreme? It's pretty rare anymore. But it manages to avoid most of the more irritatingly overused cliches, like the big game speech, and even the ones it includes, like the mutual nod of respect, are done in different ways and with different emotional undertones than we ever get in a movie like this. James Mangold has worked on some stellar films in the last few years, including 2017's Logan, and he has gathered around himself a high-class crew that understands his cinematic vision. They have a knack for giving weight to shots that would normally come across as mundane, and with Ford vs. Ferrari, they once again deliver the goods. The term heart-pounding action is thrown around with reckless abandon these days, and the term has lost all meaning to audiences so inundated with explosions and bulky behemoths with machine guns and superpowers that at this point we're nearly numb. But Ford vs. Ferrari does indeed have sequences that will make the heart race like a rocket. I felt my tendons tensing as the drivers rounded the corners. I cringed at every grind of the gears. I was nearly startled out of my seat at times, and I usually sleep through jump scares in actual horror movies. The visceral feel of the racing sequences brought to mind the now iconic high-speed chase in Gene Hackman's The French Connection. The feeling of imminent danger, the way you instinctually know the slightest mistake means disaster. I found myself involuntarily praying for the safety of the characters on screen as though they were real. And then you have the style, lighting, and music. The style mimics, quite successfully, great films of the past, but still manages to be unique. The color grading and set design bring to mind favorites of the 60s and 70s while still feeling modern and fresh. The use of light and shadow manages to add gravity, melancholy, and greasy sweat to certain scenes in just the right ways. Though parts of my brain did lock up at Bale slaving under a car in a dark garage with no work light. I mean, how can he see the nuts and bolts, I wondered? But I didn't really care. It just looks cool is the appropriate answer. And one moment soon thereafter evoked the excitement of the race he is listening to on the radio simply by the play of the shadows on the wall. Truly beautiful metaphorical vision play. One scene, lit only by work lights, was packed with intimate heart and meaning, just two men talking in quiet mutual respect. And then one walks away alone on a wet stretch of asphalt, pondering how life had brought him thus, It sang as pure and clear as Pavarotti. But that is not to say that the film is all pretty shots and no substance. We are given time to get to know all the major players, and though the film is well over 2 hours long, it was the perfect length for what it did, and the time sped by faster than many 90-minute flops I've seen this year. The music by Logan composer Marco Beltrami only fuels that feeling. The score is perfect in that it does not seek to overwhelm the movie but becomes a device of the story, something to transport the audience forward as we watch the events unfold. In fact, I never even noticed the music, I simply felt its presence. This is not the wonderfully hummable strains of John Williams, no, and no one will be able to remember the theme of this scene or that in years to come. But when it comes to atmosphere, Beltrami's your man. The movie was originally slated to star Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, but thankfully that casting decision fell through, as there is no way it could have been nearly as good as it is. Cruise and Pitt are fine actors, but when they're on screen, usually all you can think is, oh look, it's Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. This movie didn't necessarily need the star power brought by names like Cruise, Pitt, Damon, and Bale, but if you're gonna cast A-listers, at least get character actors, not just movie stars. And in getting Damon and Bale, they struck oil. The chemistry between these two men is palpable at every turn. When they are on screen together, you forget the actors and remember the men. If that makes sense. Trust me, it will when you see the movie. The list of wonderful supporting actors is so long, I genuinely do not have time to mention them all. But I will say the choice of John Barenthal as Ford Adman Lee Iacocca was pretty funny to me, as Barenthal is a ruggedly handsome, rough and tumble sort, and the real Iacocca was about as hot as Donald Trump in a bikini contest. Oh, I am so sorry for that visual. Delete, delete, delete. Just wipe it away, wipe it away. The script by Jez and John Butterworth was tight as a drum. I did not look at my watch once during the runtime, even in the quieter moments. I laughed harder at the comedic moments than at any comedy of the last 30 years. I felt more adrenaline rush from the action than any world-defending multiplex blockbuster you can imagine of late. And I cared about these characters and their plight as much as I did some franchises spanning decades. That is how well the job was done. You know, some people are calling this movie Oscar bait, and I really gotta wonder why. There aren't any of the social justice ramifications the Academy prefers to hoist a claim on. The actors are knowns and not ethnically diverse enough to pretend to praise, and there aren't any fresh faces making the tweet-worthy noise they'd want to hook their ship onto. James Mangold is a good director, but the film isn't the kind of artsy stuff or flashy pop junk the Oscars try to take advantage of to seem relevant or smart. So why call it Oscar bait? Oh, I know. Is it because the movie may deserve to win a few little golden men, or is it because the movie is actually good enough, though not socially relevant enough, to stand against the lesser works the Academy usually likes to pat themselves on the back for pretending they understand? Action movies don't win Oscars, folks. At least not the big awards like Best Picture or Best Director. Not unless they have a special show horse on display. Ford vs. Ferrari will be nominated, but it'll only win what the crowds consider to be the minor awards due to the subject matter. I'm not saying it's the best picture of the year, but I am saying it's the best time I've had at the movies this year, hands down. Okay, I realize now I'm overplaying my hand and building up the film to expectations that will fall flat on some theater goers. Hey, I'm not saying that Ford vs. Ferrari is a treasure for the ages. I am only saying that it is an exceptional movie. Built on familiar formulas, yes, but exceptional, just like the cars shown therein. Go see it on the big screen while you can. The film will definitely lose something on your TV at home. You can thank me later. And that is it tonight for Hugh's Reviews. Right now you can stream some of your favorite episodes on SoundCloud. Just search for, well, you know, Hugh's Reviews. As always, I would like to thank Moons of Vega Photography, the Central PA Computer Nerd, and WXPI Radio of Williamsport for their continued support. Please drop me a line with your thoughts about tonight's movie and any requests for future reviews. And as always, happy viewing.